Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to Los Angeles City Hall, where I'm with some of the most committed and powerful advocates from around our community today. Thanks to the good work in the state and here locally of our City Council, of advocates and community leaders, we're here to do the most important thing government can do, which is to invest in our city and save lives. Human life is precious. If we've learned anything in the last 2 years, we know that. We've felt the pain of loved ones that we've lost during this pandemic. And too often, every single day in our city and across our state, we lose too many people or see too many people become injured because of accidents that happen on our streets. But as we like saying, there's no such thing as an accident. There are works that we can take, actions that we can undergo to make sure that more human beings are amongst us, our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, our loved ones, our coworkers. And so today we are signing legislation passed by the Los Angeles City Council to do just that. This is an important step towards the safer streets that we all deserve. The day when speeding vehicles in our city no longer injure or, worst of all, take someone's life is what is our North Star today. And I'm proud to be signing this ordinance that the City Council recently passed to reduce speed limits across Los Angeles. If you grow up in this city thinking that only cars are king and that we need to get wherever we need to get as fast as possible, we know the tragic human consequence of that. But we know today that things are changing, where we understand that streets are to be shared. Streets are there for human beings, not just for cars, and that all of us need to ensure that the practices that we have of educating and engineering and enforcing safety on our streets is something that we all must embrace. But let me start by acknowledging the incredible leaders who have brought us to this day. First of all, Assemblymember Laura Friedman, who represents, among other cities, the city of Los Angeles, and without whom we wouldn't be here today. She was a champion of a bill that made this ordinance possible. We approached her and asked her, as other cities have as well, to be able to make sure we change state law to allow us to enforce and not be forced to actually increase speed limits. And due to her great work, we are here today. Council members Mike Bonin and Paul Koretz couldn't be with us today, but they were instrumental on the floor of the City Council championing this, and also Mr. Bonin in Metro. From CD11, we do have Councilmember Bonin's Transportation Director, Eric Bruns, and I want to thank him and his great team as well. And from LADOT, our Department of Transportation, we have behind us Salita Reynolds, who you might not recognize, but in her black mask right there, and her incredible team, including Connie Llanos, Dan Mitchell, our AGM, and Mackenzie Racy as well. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge the other leaders whose time and energy, sometimes in the face of tragedy that they've experienced or transformation that they've undergone in their own life, devote so much of their time and energy to fight for safer and more just streets, who hold the city and the state accountable and push for steps like the one that we're taking today. There's a lot of folks, and I know I'm probably going to miss somebody, but let me thank some of them right now. Damien Kevitt, who couldn't be here today but is represented by his partners, Justin Hager and the Reverend Patricia Strong Fargas. Michael Schneider, Yolanda Davis Overstreet, John Jones III, Eli Kaufman, Eli Lippman, Lily Trujillo, John Yee, among others. So here's the hard truth. Far too many Angelenos die in traffic collisions. Even one death is too many, which is why we launched and joined the movement of Project Zero many years ago. Because we saw, too, that not only do traffic accidents kill, but they kill disproportionately in low-income, Black, Latinx communities, where disproportionately, unfortunately, your zip code or your income is a predeterminant of being more likely to die. No parent should worry about their child going to school. No older adult should feel unsafe when they walk around her neighborhood. These are no accidents. It's just that simple. And we know that the odds of dying from a traffic collision is higher at a greater speed. In fact, it goes up exponentially. But for years, we've had a problem. Basically, the state tightly controlled how we set our speed limits. State law forced the city to increase speed limits on nearly 200 miles of streets based on persistent speeding. But Assembly Bill 43 changes that. It puts an end to creeping speed limits and allows cities across California to lower speed limits on our busiest, most complex streets. And as soon as Governor Newsom signed this bill into law, Los Angeles Department of Transportation identified streets in Los Angeles where we could lower the speed limits. And the City Council passed the ordinance that I am signing here today to make these life-saving changes possible. As I mentioned, after two of the most difficult, taxing, painful years of our lives, we're taking careful steps to open up in a way that we haven't. And we've learned so many lessons during this pandemic, whether it was taking advantage of our sidewalks to have cafes out there with LA al fresco, or whether it was our slow streets, which allow folks to determine the streets where they live, slow traffic down, or even close traffic off to those streets. We really have an opportunity to reimagine Los Angeles, to build on the 27 plus miles of bus lanes that we've installed while I've been mayor, and the more than 350, that's right, 350 miles of bike lanes that we've installed with communities. For us to be able to build the city back stronger, healthier, safer, to make our Los Angeles more equitable and just. That means many things, including streets in every zip code of our city have to be safe for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists alike. And I'm so grateful for the partnership of the leaders who are here making this dream a reality. So with that, let me turn it over to our field marshal in all of these things, who leads an incredible staff. And I would just say she has been leading the Project Zero movement. But I encourage all of our general managers to own it just as much as she has. In our law enforcement, in our public works departments, across the board. This is a joint responsibility, but we've been so proud to have an incredible partner who's a great local, national, and international leader, our LADOT General Manager, Salida Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mayor Garcetti. And I just want to give another round of coins, flowers, all the things to the advocates who are standing behind me, the calls, the letters, the email campaigns, the hard work. It really means a lot, and I just want to give a round of applause to all of you. Just much respect. You know, the way that we used to set speed limits in this state was the equivalent of, you know, when you put on a little extra weight, instead of going and talking to your doctor or, you know, folks who are experts in nutrition and exercise to slim down, instead, you might just, like, you know, loosen up your belt and buy a next size up. And that's how we used to set speed limits. The fastest driver set the speed limit. When certain people I won't name would put insane mode on their vehicle, allowing it to accelerate from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3 seconds, our streets couldn't keep up. And what happened next was, as the mayor said, not an accident. More and more people who are walking and biking and relying on transit to get from A to B every day were losing their lives or having their quality of life forever changed. Because as humans, we're not designed to survive an encounter with a moving vehicle going faster than 40 miles an hour. And the day that we had to take that action of increasing speed limits on 200 miles of streets was an extremely dark day for those of us at the Department of Transportation and advocates everywhere who spend all of our time, energy, and talent and treasure trying to change those statistics, trying to save those lives. So I want to just give a huge note of respect and real deep, deep gratitude for Assemblymember Laura Friedman, who had the political courage to, in spite of the fact that everybody said this was a third rail issue, that you could never win, you could never get it done, that she persisted. She created a task force, yes. She created a task force, and our chief engineer, Dan Mitchell, joined me on that task force. Many trips up to Sacramento, many conversations seated over, you know, subpar cafeteria food in state buildings, trying to figure out how could we get this done. And the thing that I want to say about this is that, you know, you might criticize this, or some folks who've been in this fight might say, listen, this is just incrementalism. You know, you haven't really done away with the worst parts of how we used to set speed limits. And I would say that's true, but this is the type of incrementalism that sets off an absolute paradigm shift. It is revolutionary, and I cannot overstate that. People really have spent decades working on this. And what it says is that people who live in a community, people who live in a neighborhood, people who experience the consequences of being near fast streets, they are the ones who ought to be consulted first. They are the experts who know best. And we now are able to, as professionals and leaders and practitioners, say, yes, we agree with you, and we are going to keep the speed limits at levels where when accidents happen, when people make mistakes, when crashes occur, that the cost is not a human life. So I also want to thank Tim Conger. I want to thank Connie Llanos and Mackenzie Racy. I especially want to thank Tim Conger because it's his good work that means that all of those 177 miles will be back to what they were by June of this year. So this is the first big moment where we're able to take this legislation and make it real, and it's a doozy. And everybody who worked on this should really take this moment to just take it in, take a deep breath, and know we are not done. We will keep going. We have our eyes clearly on the goal of having 0 traffic deaths in this city and of making sure that there are no laws at the state level that keep us from doing that. And we are only able to have this huge heart full of optimism because we have incredible leaders like Assemblymember Friedman, like Mayor Garcetti, like Councilmember Mike Bonin, and Councilmember Paul Koretz, and Councilmember Paul Krikorian, who also fought this at the state level. This is a good day, but it's a day to be reminded that we're going to stay in this fight until it's done.
And thank you, Dan. Just reminded me that it's Vision Zero. I had a little bit of a Monday morning brain because I was being briefed on Project Next, which is mean 100% recyclable water. So 2 good things that are happening that merge in my brain. But Vision Zero really is that guiding post for all of us to get to a place where we have 0 deaths. And that has to be what continues to move forward, and we couldn't have done this, again, without the state. And so I want to ask Seamus Garrity, who is one of the leaders inside Assemblymember Laura Friedman's office, who's really been able to help deliver this as well, to come forward to say a few words on her behalf. Please give him applause for her and him as he comes forward. Thank you.
Come in. Hello, thank you. Thank you for having us here today. Vision Zero was a revolutionary idea when it was introduced, and it provided the inspiration for this legislation. Assemblymember Laura Friedman very much wanted to join you today, as public safety is one of her top priorities, but today she is in Sacramento continuing this work for the people of California. The mayor and the advocates here today have been incredible partners in the 3 years it took to pass this legislation into law. We know the statistics related to fatalities and the dangers of speeding. Traffic fatalities are one of the leading causes of death for the people of Los Angeles, and speeding is the leading cause of fatalities and traffic accidents. Assemblymember Friedman and everyone on her staff are so thrilled to see it being put into action, and we look forward to safer streets. But the work is not done. This year, Assemblymember Friedman has introduced AB 2336, which would allow Los Angeles to use automated speed enforcement in certain highly dangerous areas to stop reckless driving, because we need to ensure that our cities have the tools they need to protect their citizens. Thank you, Mayor Garcetti and the City Council, for being terrific partners here, and to all the advocates for everything that you've done over the years. That's it.
Thank you. And finally, just a couple words in Spanish, and then I'll sign this as well. Muy buenos días, Los Ángeles, y estoy orgulloso de firmar la ordenanza que nos acerca más a un futuro donde los vehículos a exceso de velocidad no podrán lesionar a la gente, o peor, les quiten la vida. El manejar a alta velocidad en Los Ángeles ha quitado la vida de aproximadamente 250 personas cada año. Y desproporcionadamente estos son angelinos de bajos recursos, afroamericanos y latinos. Ningún padre debería preocuparse por qué su hijo no llegue a la escuela. Ninguna persona debería sentirse en peligro cuando camine en su vecindario. Pero teníamos un problema en Los Ángeles. El Estado controlaba el límite de velocidad. Y una nueva ley estatal cambió esto, permitiéndonos bajar el límite y salvar vidas. Y gracias a la asambleísta Laura Friedman por su liderazgo en porque fue crítica a esta legislación. Y cada calle en cada código postal de esta ciudad debería ser segura para los peatones, ciclistas y motoristas. Gracias a todos quienes trabajaron para hacer esto una realidad, especialmente las activistas en todas partes de nuestra ciudad, porque toda la gente en Los Ángeles merecen la seguridad. And with that, we're going to move this podium and we're going to make this official and sign it. So thank you. All right. You guys ready? All good? It's the 6th. We did it? Yeah. 6? All right, thanks. All right, it's done. Thank you.